telling myself that I'm a good guy is probably the hardest thing. Looking myself in the mirror and actually doing it. Hell, it's even hard to even say it on this thing.
Hey, Tony, welcome to Real Men Feel.
Hey, Andy, how's it going?
It's going great. I've been looking forward to talking to you. We've known each other for I guess over a year. We're both part of the Diamond certification process with our mentor and coach and all around leader of men, Jed Diamond,
Yeah,
for the past.
yeah,
That's how we kind of survived COVID in one
yeah.
of
We're
those
we're
ways.
we're COVID brothers. That's
Yeah.
right.
So cool. And getting to know you in that, hearing a bit of your story, I reached out and said, "Wow, would you like to discuss this on Real Men Feel?" And you were kind of, yeah, maybe, yeah, whatever. But eventually it became a hell yes. So I'm glad
Yes.
to have you
Yeah.
here. And this is episode 250 of Real Men Feel. A nice big milestone.
Wow.
And what I'm psyched about is that just talking to a regular guy, right? It's not some big shindig. I'm like, oh, I got to get a celebrity name or something. Like, no, this is what
Right.
it's about. It's about just regular, real men. When I say real men, I don't mean that someone that doesn't listen to this show is somehow not a man. I'm just mean
Right.
genuine, authentic men,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
definitely what you are.
That's what you've had on your show that I've seen. So
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. I appreciate being here.
cool. So let's just jump in, and one of the things that a term that stood out to me was from your very beginning. Your family called you the miracle baby. So
Yes.
you might you tell that story?
Well, I mean, it was my parents were married for probably about, I want to say, about 15 years before I was born, and I was born in 1965, so obviously way back when, getting old, but they they couldn't have children, and so they tried and tried, and finally the technology came about where you could actually go in and open up my mom's ovaries, and actually she could have a baby. And I was like, wow. They told that story, and I learned that along pretty late in my life, about how I was the miracle baby. I was they didn't think they were going to have kids, and all of a sudden they got three. And it's like, and I was the first one out of the chute. So I was lavished upon, to say the least, when I was little. So
Cool. So did that stick with you the rest of your life? Did you feel lavished upon by life itself and feel like you were the king of the world, or?
well, for a while, sure, until I think probably around 12 years old, my little brother was born. And when you're 12, you're coming into puberty and you're doing all these things, and all of a sudden, you're not you're not the center of attention anymore, right? And so I was the king. I was Anthony the king. I could do no wrong. And then all of a sudden, the little brother was born, and suddenly I'm, you know, going through puberty and having all these issues with myself. And my dad wasn't there. My mom wasn't there to really help me through that. So it was an interesting transition time. But yeah, for the most part, you could still talk to my mom today, and I could call her all sorts of names. She'd say, "Oh yeah, he's so great," or something like that. She's just it's something that's stuck with me, and it's impacted me over my whole life. In terms of this king being the king, and then not feeling like the king and not being treated like the king. Um, uh, there's that feeling of abandonment that comes with that, and it's crazy, because you feel entitled. It's like, I should be able to do this, and I should have this, and I should have that. And that's not the case with life, right?
Mm.
So, but there's a little growing up for me to do, especially as I transition to married life and father life. uh, I realized, boy, I got some growing up to do, because I feel entitled. I think that maybe I'm mirroring the rest of the country sometimes.
Hmm. And that sense of entitlement, is that part of kind of the masculine identity, like I'm the man of the world? Was that passed on as part of that, or was it more the by being the miracle, being the highlight of the family as a child?
It was being spoiled, being the highlight of the family. I mean, we were. My dad was a firefighter. He didn't make a lot of money, but he worked, two or three other jobs, and he just lavished physical things on us. Lavished all sorts of. I mean, Christmas is like going to Walmart now, and it's like you walk into your living room and it's like, wow, wall to wall toys, and you come to expect that almost, right? You come to, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an analogy, but it's like that's just kind of that's the way it is, right?
Right,
It's
that becomes the
feel
norm, and it doesn't feel special anymore, it's just what's supposed to happen.
it's what's supposed to happen. It's kind of like my work is like that now. It's like I get paid quite a bit of money, and it's like I just keep expecting it every year, and I'm going, wait a minute, someday it's going to stop, right? I mean, it's an expectation. You expect to be pampered, or that's not the right word, but you know what I mean. You
Mm.
expect to have things. You expect to be able to just go and do something and have no consequences. I guess I'm not sure. It's a
Mm.
it's a mindset that I've had, and it's something that I've just started to become aware of in my middle years.
Hmm. So, as a child of the '60s, did your was your father kind of a man of that time? Was he kind of like the strong, silent type, the John Wayne, or did he lavish anything besides gifts upon you?
Well, so it's because they were older. Um, they weren't children of the '60s, so they weren't like flower children or any of that kind of stuff. I mean, my dad was a World War II vet, and he was born in like 24, so they were Depression children.
Hmm.
So I think the way it kind of worked with them is that it was, we want the kids to have more than we did, and so it was like in a way it was like that because I was right on the tail end. I'm a what is it? It's baby boomers stop at 64, and then it's whatever is Gen X or
Yeah,
whatever
Gen
comes
X.
after that. And so I was kind of on the tail end of the baby boomer era where we were lavished upon because most of baby boomer parents were World War II and Depression survivors. So I think it was more about that. Did I answer the question? Because I forgot what the question was.
Did your father lavish you in ways besides physical gifts?
No, he wasn't very emotionally there. If the one emotion that he showed the most was anger and rage, and I think it's because he kept things in. He wasn't. I wouldn't call him the John Wayne type, but he was in all he was in all four theaters in the Pacific, and he did all those kind of things, and I think there was some PTSD there that he just wasn't dealing with. So there's a lot of rage. I think he was going through when I was born, which is Jed talks about male menopause. I was born when he was 42, so he's already starting to go through male menopause when I was born, and then my younger brother was born 12 years later, so he was 53. Or did I do the math right? No, he was 50 something, and I think he was going through male menopause, and he was really, really. I mean, he was an ugly guy. Sometimes he would be very generous, and he worked his ass off. But then all of a sudden, it would be like a snap. I remember he walked into my room one day. I had a pair of underwear on the floor, and he just flipped out about it. And I'm going, what the hell, So it's just, I think there was some unacknowledged or undealt with trauma that he had. I mean, it's kind of the nature of all our problems, I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does.
Okay.
And what do I want to get to? Oh, so you bring up middle age. I just had my middle age blank moment. Duh.
I blame it on COVID. It's all COVID's fault.
Yeah. So most people that I meet, they either model their parents or go opposite. So
Hmm.
did you find yourself being an angry, rageful guy? Is that what kind of you were taught? That's how you showed you were a man, or did you even as a kid realize, wow, I don't like that. I'm going to do something else?
I think I went the other way, but not in a healthy way. So I went the codependent way. I went the people pleaser way. I tried to please my dad a lot by doing things like, so. For example, I went in the military so that he'd be proud of me. I didn't go in the military because I really wanted to go. I mean, I should have been a biologist, or I wanted to be a biologist, or an environmentalist. And I loved the military stuff. I wanted to fly, and I ended up flying for a little while. But it was more about wanting my dad, to tell me he was proud of me, because he just didn't do that. He just didn't do that. I got all A's and a B in conduct. I remember in first grade, and all he did was just scream and yell at me about how I can't behave in class. And I'm like, holy shit. So, you know,
Did there ever become a point? Did he ever say that? Did you ever get that moment?
no,
No. Hmm.
nope, nope. He started telling me he loved me for the first time, like, about 2 years before he died, and I somehow it just didn't seem honest. He was just saying it because he was starting to feel like, oh, I've got to get closer to my kids and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I mean, he mellowed out when he was older, but it was really, I don't think we were ever really that close. You know, After 12 years older, so I think he just lost it when my little brother was born.
Hmm.
You know, Not
And
lost it, but you know what I mean.
and so, how did that affect your relationship with your children?
It's very similar. My oldest, he's about 32. He and I we got very close because when I got married, I adopted him. He was 3 years old, and we spent probably the first 3 years of my married life. I spent more time with him than I did with my wife because um, she was in school all the time, so I took care of him. And when we were dating, even I loved being around. He and I would have a good time playing cars and whatnot. My younger son came in right when my military career was starting to ramp up. He was born, and then we went to Boston, and then to the Pentagon. And the Pentagon life, was just crazy. The commute was crazy. The hours were crazy. And I started to just feel, I was starting to feel like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I wasn't aware of that at the time. I remember my older son asking one day. I came home from work, and I was just not happy. And he goes, "How come Dad's always mad all the time now?" And it really struck me because I sat there and I'm like, wow, okay, this was my I'm starting to emulate my dad. I think my dad, his later years of his firefighting career, he was the acting chief. He hated his job, and he would come home, after he'd go out drinking with his buddies and come back and just be just angry at anything. And I think that's kind of where that started for me. So I started to feel inadequate at work.
And then
So I think he felt inadequate.
did you kind of follow your dad's lead too, with like using alcohol to try to like hide that or numb that not happiness? Or
Well, no, well, the alcohol, but not so much. For me, it was mostly pornography, sex. I started going down that path of, you know, uh, watching pornography a lot. I'd stay up late and play video games, just to numb out. It got to the point where Lori would say, "How come you never come to bed anymore?" And it's like, because I don't know, I couldn't answer her that back then because I felt like I was normal. It's like everybody looks at pornography, everybody masturbates, everybody does this, everybody does that. But it escalated. I ended up having an affair later on that in that cycle, and that really created some serious shit and angst in my marriage. So but it was a lot of it was wrapped around not being the king anymore, not realizing that I was or not feeling special. I guess that's probably the best way to say it, because I was special. Everybody's special, but yeah, it was pretty tough. That was a pretty tough time. DC was a hard place for me.
was there one particular moment or event that felt like your rock bottom, what that got you to kind of start looking at yourself and heal the trauma?
Well, the affair was probably rock bottom, but it was more about realizing, Lori kept saying, my wife kept saying, "Hey, I know something's going on, and you're not telling me." And I'm saying, "No, you're crazy." I was gaslighting her big time, and I realized, not at that moment because I was too scared shitless, because I knew that I was fucked up and something was going on, and I needed help, but I didn't wasn't going there, and so that was rock bottom for me, and it was a long climb from there to where I am today, because I've been in recovery now for what, 10 years,
Hmm.
11 years, something like that. So
What's that initial block to knowing something's wrong and not seeking help?
well, I mean, it's just denial. I kept trying to deny that I had a problem, even though I knew damn well that I did. I just like, why am I here? I kept telling myself, even during the affair, why am I here? Why am I here? Even as I was isn't doing the deed, it was like, why am I here doing this? This is not who I am. And I felt awful. And it goes against everything I was brought up to be. I mean, I grew up Catholic. Can you imagine how much guilt and shame were coming out of me at that point? Because here I am, Mister, failing the Ten Commandments. And there was a lot of guilt and shame that was just suppressed. And it finally just took Lori threatening to leave to to tell her what had happened. And this was after the fact. I mean, this was a year after I ended the relationship with this person, and yeah, it was just awful. And the most awful part was that it's triggering her wounds. Her mom was married 6 times, and her dad left, for somebody else, and so there's just awful enmeshment between the two of us, and it just culminated recently in divorce. So it's just, yeah, but bottom hit, uh, 13 years ago, 14 years ago, and it's been a slow climb.
Hmm. So with 10 years of work on yourself, is that sense of guilt and shame, is it at least diminished, if not entirely gone?
Yeah, I mean, it's the work I've done, in 12 step helped get me at least aware of what was going on with me. Um, I still feel, there are occasions where I still feel a lot of shame, a lot of guilt. I feel like, oh my God, what a loser! I couldn't keep my marriage going, that kind of stuff. And you and I have talked about that, and we've talked about it in the class with Jed. But it has gotten better. The fact that I have people that tell me, hey, you're a pretty special dude. Even everybody in our class, and the people that I volunteer with. And that the key though is that I need to feel special about me, and that's the part that's the hardest work. And that's, again, it's a daily grind, to sit there and say, wait, I appreciate everything I have in my life, and I'm a good guy. You know what I mean? It's telling myself that I'm a good guy is probably the hardest thing. Look at myself in the mirror and actually do it. Hell, it's even hard to even say it on this thing, because I'm like looking at myself going, oh, what a fucking asshole, But it's hard. We grow up with this image of ourselves, and then all of a sudden it gets shot down, and then you're trying to come back, and then all of a sudden you screw up royally, like the affair, and you just keep going. There's this revisit of things in the past, and I think that's probably the key. Is the more you stay in the present, the easier it is not to feel shame, guilt, and shame. You know, just doing this podcast is a victory for me. We talk about victories in 12 step, and it's like, this is a victory. I didn't want to do it. I was scared shitless. I didn't want to get judged. I didn't want people to see me and say, "What? Who the hell is this knucklehead?" Just some guy. And it was pretty cool. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool to be here.
Yeah. Like I feel like I'm saying it every show, but silence kills men. And your
Yes.
speaking up helps you, like you're feeling better through this, in the moment of this process, it's feeling
Oh
better.
yeah.
And I know people will listen and like, wow, they'll be willing to share something with a friend, with a partner, with someone in their life too. And
Yeah.
that's the magic that's why I love having people come on that aren't speakers and haven't told
No.
their stories, because again, it helps. This is a beneficial thing for everybody involved.
You never know who you're going to reach.
Yeah.
You may think, wow, that nobody's going to give a shit about what I say, but
Yeah.
the reality is people do. People listen.
Yeah.
So
And just to make it one more step of official, yeah, Tony, you're a good guy.
thanks, man. I appreciate it.
And getting back to the shame and guilt, did you look at other people whose marriages didn't work? Did you look at everyone that was divorced and feel that they should be shamed and they were guilty of making mistakes? Or was there only you?
I, well, so there's an element of judgment. I mean, you sit there and you look at people who were divorced. I would say, wow, what 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 part of them was screwed up. What caused that, or who cheated on who, or whatever. And there was some element of judgment there. But in the end, now the way I look at it is I'm not alone. There's a lot of people out there that have ended their marriage and are trying to get something else going. And right now I feel like I'm in a kind of a holding pattern. Trying to figure out who Tony is before something else happens. So and I miss my wife a lot. There was a lot of really good things that happened with us, and for me it's really hard to even ruminate on that, because I just didn't think I'd ever be in this position. I mean,
Mm.
we were married for 28 years. So
Mm.
so yeah.
So one thing I know that has been resonating with you lately, and that perhaps it's helping you find out who Tony is a charity that caught your eye.
Right. Yeah. Charity water. That was part of our class together with Jed. We the 20-minute video that Jed showed just knocked my socks off. And it just it hit every button that I have for service. I mean, my mission in life is to serve others. So it's when I saw that, it was like, yep, that's a hell yes. And Charity Water is a I don't know if you're going to introduce it or not, but it's a group of people that are it's called the Spring, and they gather together and donate to Charity Water, which is a nonprofit organization run by Scott Harrison, and he is bringing clean water to everybody he possibly can. His goal is to reach 785 million people, which is crazy, right? If you think about 785 million people who don't have clean water to drink every day. So when I saw this video and I saw his journey, which was very, very similar to mine in a sense, he had his addictions and he was doing his thing in New York, and all of a sudden, he realized, aha, I've hit bottom. I've got to get the hell out of this and do something different. And it was just amazing. I think not only is his organization something that pushes my buttons, but he pushes him, because he's got that hero's journey going, and I really resonated with that.
Cool. And I know there was part of it. Um, you're discovering that part of your mission is wanting to be of service, and
Right.
kind of and not this came up in a prior conversation. Not a distorted sense of service, like not going to service to please your dad, but going to service
Right.
because it pleases you. There's a
Right.
there's a benefit for you, and there's a benefit for people that you impact.
Right. Right.
And Charity Water is really out to change the world for the better. And I know there's an
Yes.
aspect of it that seemed to resonate with you a lot about improving the lives of women around the world. Can you speak to
Right.
that?
Sure, I sure can. So the best part of what he presented was just how the women in Africa, having to carry 40 pound jugs on their head, all for miles to get to water, and then it's crappy water. And in the process of them doing that, they're away from their families. In the process of doing that, they're getting mugged and raped by men on the path, because they know the women go back and forth all the time. And for me, it was a form of amends for all the times that I've objectified women, for all the times that I've done things that I just know that's not who I am. Especially now with the Me Too movement, I realize, my gosh, we as men are really not aware. It's mostly a lack of awareness of the things that we do. So, and it was an amends to my wife. I mean, I fully realized that I hurt her really badly, and so it's an indirect way to make an amends to all women. I can sit there and I can help if I can help somebody halfway across the world. That's a pretty cool thing. So
And is that all right? To me, this is what proves your essential goodness. That desire to make amends, that desire to not just heal and forgive yourself, but to have it reach out to others, right? So, I get are amends kind of the opposite of shame? Are they? Is there a relation there?
Well, I mean, I was just thinking about that in terms of, an amends is an action you take that really truly comes from the heart. You can always say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." I can't tell you how many times I said sorry to my wife, and I thought, well, that's enough, right? But taking an action like this to actually directly help people. I know it's right now it's just money, but it's a way of I don't know if it's opposite of shame. I think probably so, or it's an admission that, hey, I'm a flawed human being. There's no shame in that,
Mm,
and I can help others to the best of my ability.
mm. Yeah, I mean that's all right. Yeah, it's bad wording on my point. It's not the opposite of shame, but it can certainly help to heal and lessen
Yes,
shame. Yeah,
yes,
cool.
yes, most definitely,
Hmm.
most definitely.
And you mentioned discovering your mission and really being aligned with Charity Water's purpose and their mission. What makes purpose important?
Well, it's purpose and calling, right? It's something that gets you up in the morning. Right now I'm working. I support the Air Force. I was 24 years in the military. Now I'm a contractor, consultant type, and I get up every morning going, oh man, I got to get up and go to work. Having a purpose other than that makes getting up in the morning a lot easier. It gives you that spark. Someone, I remember when I was taking a different class, and I was talking about something, and they said, wow, Tony, you just lit up like a Christmas tree. What is I was talking about something else, but it was something related to my purpose, to serve others and help mend the fabric of the world. And this is that. This is good stuff. I mean, I wish I could go out and start digging wells right now in Africa. I mean, that's that and get paid the way I do now. So, but the reality is that, as long as I'm focused on some purpose, what is it that I want to do? Well, I want to mend the fabric of the world. Well, there's all sorts of ways to do that, you know, and it's easy to get overwhelmed by the fact that we have global warming going on, and we have just the crap that's been going on as part of this of COVID and Trump and all the things that are going on in the world. It's easy to get overwhelmed, but it's hard to just focus. What can I do as an individual? That's the key, and that gives me hope. That when I can put my money towards something, I can put my time towards something, and I feel better for it. And that's really, it's sounds kind of selfish, but it's really how I get through a day. You
Yeah,
know.
and this is something often say and tell my clients like when something is from the heart, when good people being selfish is actually selfless because we recognize that being of service, uplifting others makes us feel good. So to
Oh,
be
it makes me
selfish in
feel
that
awesome.
respect,
Yeah.
yeah. So if repairing the fabric of the world seems selfish to you, like please be selfish, right?
Right.
Huh.
Right.
Cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
selfishness has a bad rap. I mean, it's got a bad rap from people that are not authentic, not aligned with good things, and
Right.
you know, uh, there's that lack mentality and needing to take from others, and this unnecessary sense of competitiveness. But selfish when you see that you're part of the world, you're part of a larger tribe of humans.
Right.
I think there's a great benefit to that.
I agree. I agree.
Cool. When we first talking before the show, you talked about how you were right about being judged for being yourself and being seen, and you brought up my appearance earlier this year on this I forget the guy's name, Jesse Lee somebody's show, and
Yeah.
yeah, I felt I had been deceived as to why I was there, but call as I say the call did not go well. I hung up, and then his followers unleashed their fury on me online and stuff, and in the moment it felt horrible. And so I told you, like, thank God it wasn't like my first show or something. Like now, I laughed at only good things came of it after all.
Sure.
But
Sure.
is that is fear of being judged by people, or even if it's more by men, by almost like by your dad, is that something that
Yes.
holds you back? Is that what's been in the way?
Yes. Most definitely. Yeah. My dad. I could do no. A lot of times I could do no right with him. It would. I do 99. I think I've said this before, but yeah, in class. But 99. I do 99 things right, and I did that 100th thing. is what they focus on. And it was I kind of married my dad. My wife was the same way in many ways, where I just felt like I couldn't make a move without having it be challenged in some way, shape, or form. Part of that's lack, the breaking of trust on my side. So there's on my side of the fence there is that, but even more so, just the not feel that feeling of walking on eggshells all the time. That was the way I used to dread 5 o'clock when I was a kid, because I knew my dad was coming home. And you never knew which dad was coming home. Could be the happy dad that had a few drinks with his buddies and was out there and having a good time, because he could be a really good dude. I mean, truly, but it was just the idea that you just never knew which was coming. My wife was out the same way, and I'm sure she felt the same way about me. I come home absolutely shitty sometimes about work and just angry, and so I imagine we fed off each other. But yes, yeah, I have this huge feeling of being judged. Like people are gonna say you're a fuck up, Tony, and I it's hard for me. I have this fear of making mistakes, and so I don't take risks as much as maybe I could, and I'm starting to do that. I'm starting to kind of get out there. This is a risk today.
Yeah.
Somebody I know might see this podcast and go, "Oh, I saw Tony on there. He was doing this and that." Hey, Lori, he was talking about you, and and it's like, you take that risk, and so yes,
Yeah.
here I am.
Risks are good, but I get what you're saying. Like, I used to be terrified of risk and just, stay in my comfort zone, even when my comfort zone was not comfortable at all. But at least, the shitty feeling I'm used to is
Yeah,
better than the one I don't know. Um,
yeah.
yeah. And I've also found that nobody judges me as harshly as I've always been judging
Oh,
myself.
I'm my
Yeah.
worst critic.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
most definitely,
Cool.
most definitely.
All
Yep,
right.
yep.
So the more you discover that the rest of the world is not full of, versions of your worst aspects judging you back, does that make stepping out and taking risks easier? Do you find that?
It's easier to talk to people in an authentic way. I don't have to put the mask on. I don't
Mm.
feel like I never had to put the mask on. I impose that on myself,
Right.
So, but it's much easier to talk to people authentically. I was going to say, um, we talk about real men feel, and it's a riot, because if you in the Myers-Briggs, I had a class when I was in the military, and it was me. It was a bunch of guys and maybe, I don't know, 5 or 10 women in the class, right? And so we did the Myers Briggs, and I was they binned us. They grouped us with all the, I was an ENFP, so I was one of the only guy feelers in the whole place, and it was kind of funny because I was sitting there with all the women. We were all grouped together, and I'm a feeler, and I'm an empath. I've discovered that, and it really, yeah, I can feel people's energy, and I think what triggered me about that guy that interviewed you was just the energy coming off of him reminded me of my wife.
Mm.
That black and white thinking that I'm gonna trap you into saying some shit that you're gonna, and then you know what I mean? It just, I worry about that, and that's the worry, that's the fear,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a big part of me speaking out,
Yeah,
because you're like realizing just because you're not like most men or all men doesn't mean you're alone.
right.
Yeah, so there are plenty of male empaths in the world, but
Yes.
all of them have been told at some point in their lives, "Don't do that. That's not
Yeah.
right. You're not
You
being a
can't
man."
cry. You want to cry? I'll give you something to cry about. That
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 It's horrible.
Still
So,
got still got that one in my head.
another thing I know that you've talked about as benefiting you is discovering the power of tribes, of a community.
Yes.
And
Multiple tribes. Yes.
yeah, because you found one. So you served in Iraq, and you found a support there that surprised me. And I'm going to
Yeah.
imagine that you know what I'm talking about. Can you speak to that?
You talking about the choir, the
Yeah,
gospel choir?
yeah,
Yeah. So I started singing a little bit before I went to Iraq. I got some singing lessons, and I was singing in a barbershop quartet, which I didn't much care for. I don't really like barbershop quartet music, even though the harmonies are beautiful. But when I got to Iraq, I went to church. I was like, it's like, hey, maybe I'll go to this service and see what it is. and I saw these people up there just singing like crazy at the gospel choir in the gospel service. And I took a chance. Now, see, I went up, and I was the only white guy there. And I went up and I said, "Hey, white guy in the choir," and I said, "Hey, could I sing with you guys?" And it was like, oh my gosh, it was almost like, here you go, and they pulled me in, and I had so much fun singing gospel music. And it's for me, it's the exact opposite of the Catholic Church. It's this, not this stolid stoic thing. It's this, just let it out. You just, when you sing gospel music, you let it out, and you're putting yourself out there. And the tribe that I had there was amazing. And the only sad part of the whole thing is, everybody rotates in and out. Obviously, that you don't stay there forever. And then we had the end of mission where most everybody left, and just a few of us stayed. When we had, I think it was like 30,000 troops left in 2011, and I stayed as part of the Department of State. So I ended up taking over the gospel choir, and I knew nothing about music, and it was about 5 of us, and we ended up having to do karaoke because we lost all of our musicians and all that stuff. So we were karaokeing all sorts of different music, and it was still so much fun, and it was still a tribe. People came to the gospel choir because we sang, and even the 3-star general who was in charge of the whole place would come to gospel choir to hear us sing. So it was a good time.
Now, did you run into fear of judgment and risk taking as a singer? Or was that no? That was just fun, and it didn't matter what anyone thought.
It didn't matter what anybody thought. And, quite frankly, the 3-star general who I thought was a really awesome guy, he was like, he would call me the singing colonel or something like that. I can't remember what he said, and I'd see him running, we'd be running, and we'd talk, and Iraq was a different place. There were a lot of warriors there, warrior energy, not warriors like warriors, but warrior energy. But they also recognize that we're in a danger zone. We were getting, before the end of the mission, we were getting rocket attacks every other day, and IED attacks and other things. And it was, you start realizing that you've got to show emotion, you've got to let it out, or you can explode. There's a lot of pressure, you could have a lot of pressure there. But that was a tribe that kept me from going nuts. It was an awesome experience.
I wonder if to kind of wrap this up,
Sure.
is there one practice, a book, a technique, anything that's helped you that you would recommend to any guy that just feels like they're at their rock bottom right now? What's your best advice?
Get in a men's group. We don't spend enough time talking to one another and getting men's energy, especially if you're experiencing male menopause. 45, if you're 45 to 65, there's shit starts going wrong, not wrong, but our bodies start to change, our minds start to change, our chemistry starts to change, and you need to have other men to have them validate that, and to say, hey, dude, you can tell us anything, and you can feel safe doing it. We're not your dad.
Cool. Yeah, I could not agree more, and did not plan this, but we're both involved with the Mankind Project, and I've
Right.
enjoyed those groups myself, and I now facilitate groups at mensgroup.com,
Oh,
and
cool.
the experience there has been phenomenal, and just seeing the amount of new guys coming in week after week that taking this risk of sharing something, being open and authentic, and seeing the rewards, seeing people's energies change, seeing their lives improve. Super powerful. So yeah, so
Yes,
I
it
could
is. It
not
is
disagree
totally
with that.
awesome. Totally awesome.
Cool.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Tony, I am so glad you took this risk. I'm so glad that you're owning your good guy, and being willing to talk about it and share it with people. Everyone listening, thanks for making the time. I will be sure to visit realmenfeel.org. In the show notes for this episode, we'll have a link to the video about Charity Water that Tony and I first saw,
Cool.
and what resonated so much with Tony. We'll have links to his Facebook profile if you want to follow up and share anything. But yeah, you're not allowed to judge him. if you're gonna reach out, you better be fucking nice, supportive. I mean,
Don't piss me off.
yeah, yeah, no bad dad treatments. Cool. So again, thanks everyone for joining us. Wherever you're discovering that real men feel, we would love your support, your subscription, your sharing, your review, your commenting. If you know a regular guy in your life that needs to hear something that Tony or I shared today, please share this with them, right? And if you're struggling, if you need that place, visit mensgroup.com and check out. You can do a free group and have an experience there and find out that there is a community, there's a tribe for you. Through it all, be good to yourself.